Ladies and gentlemen, we are on day 4 of Everfest spoiler season, and I'm starting to come up with a theory. And it's all about the items that we have in this set, because there are just a ton of items. Like, there's a ton of amulets and talismans and potions. And I have a theory. First of all, we're going to talk about the Amulet of Assertiveness as we go through what has basically become the Wombo Combo Day, which is day 4 of the Flesh and Blood Everfest spoiler season. Amulet of Assertiveness, when you play this, it has go again, so you don't have to like burn the rest of your turn. It doesn't block for anything, that's kind of a bummer, but it says attack reaction, destroy this, target attack gains when this hits, banish the top card of your deck. If it's an attack action card, you can play it this turn. Activate this only if you have 4 or more cards in hand. So this one's interesting in that if you lead in like with a full hand with an attack, maybe for free or something like that, then you can pop this, play something off the top, and just go after that with your hand. If you don't have that, you have to set up a 4-card hand by drawing into it. You could also technically start with like a 0-cost attack action from Arsenal, but if you have to pitch something away to pay for an attack, then you're down to a 3-card hand, thus not being able to play this. But it does reward you for deck building with a lot of 0-cost attacks. So this is really interesting because it makes me go, wow, this would have been really good as a starting play in like Cheerios Briar. Like, if you think about it, because you start with an attack in Arsenal that has go again, that costs nothing. You come in with that, and then attack, react, destroy Amulet of Assertiveness, get something off the top, play that, and then just have your 4-card hand after that. It would be really good in that. And you know what? Post errata, Briar may still be able to do that with Amulet of Assertiveness. And now I'm sitting here thinking, maybe it's kind of fun to try that and try to work some of these amulets in for the high roll factor of this card, in that it gives you basically just another card in hand, another attack in hand. I feel like this would be a lot of fun in just putting it into use and seeing how it plays out use case wise overall. But here's my theory, okay? We have so many of the cards thus far, more than ever before, revealed as items, and I feel as though that's very specific, and perhaps it's just literally setting us up for a full-on alchemist hero. Maybe not in this set, but I think it would make sense for it to be like a young hero that's like sort of a one-off, kind of like we saw with Kavdayan, like a merchant or shapeshifter, Shiana, right? They're one-off heroes that don't necessarily have class cards. This would be a character or a hero that wouldn't have class cards per se, but would be able to gain some value or some benefit from playing all of these items. Maybe all of the items, maybe their effect is like, items in your hand block for 3. And when you play an item, deal 2 arcane damage. Or like when you destroy an item, deal 2 arcane damage. What would you build? What kind of deck would you build if that were an effect? And so I'm sitting here thinking, okay, if Alchemist is a class that they're introducing into the game, then of course they'd want to give more items, talismans, things like that for that, play style, essentially. So perhaps that's where they're going. And if they're not doing it this set, maybe they throw it into like an upcoming full-on release set. It's interesting. I'm very intrigued by it because I feel like it's not done by accident. Like, it's literally planned to have this many in the set. Earthlore Bounty, this card is cool. It's a Majestic Guardian equipment, blocks for 2, it has temper, so if you defend with Earthlore Bounty, you put a -1, and when basically when the number goes down to 0, it explodes. So it's got temper effect, just like we saw in Crucible. This one says when you draw a card from the effect of an action card, create a Seismic Surge token for each card drawn this way. And I'm pretty sure that is just straight up Volta on the picture, which is awesome. This is a really cool effect because there's lots of cards in Guardian that trigger this effect. And it's so crazy to think, like, here's a class, Guardian, that feels like Warrior did back in Crucible of War. Just an embarrassment of riches. Like, we have Guardian cards, we have Elemental Guardian cards, we have a hero now that can play both, like regular Guardian cards and Elemental Guardian cards to like their utmost potential. Oldhim, of course, can do both as well, but Earthlore Bounty here seems like it would be fantastic competing against tech like plating. Like, we already have tech plating in this slot, and yet here we have Earthlore Bounty able to create you seismic surges if you build a deck in such a way that perhaps draws you cards. So like literally playing stuff like Fiendel Spring Tunic, playing like Awakening. I'm just trying to think of things off the top of my head. Showtime draws you a card. What's the aura that if you have stuff in your pitch already, then it draws you a card? That one. That's another thing as well. All of these cards draw you other cards, which is just pure advantage. They replace themselves or they draw you extra cards. And then you have this that creates seismic surges for each one drawn. It's so crazy that Guardian is getting all of these crazy tools. What do you think about that in a comment below? Tell me, do you like that Guardian is getting all of these crazy tools? I think it's one of those scenarios where we saw it with Warrior back in Crucible of War. It felt like Warrior had everything and everyone was just trying to go toe-to-toe that way with like how much they got. Now we're seeing it with Guardian. Maybe that's just what we're going to see the classes do. Like each block, there's just a class or two classes that just gets an embarrassment of riches. I guess Runeblade's kind of doing that too. It's kind of interesting. I just found that very intriguing. Microprocessor, here we go. We have a data doll specialization, and I think this just straight up for me confirms that we are just going to blanket get every specialization for every Crucible hero, which means come on Kavdayan, come on Kasai, come on Shiana. Oh my god, especially Shiana. Look, if you gave a specialization to the hero that can run all specializations, how meta would that be? Like, that's layers upon layers. Anyway, sorry, microprocessor cost 2. It's an item. Of course, items work fantastically well with Data Doll because she's, banishing stuff with boost or with other effects. And then if it's an item, it comes into play. I should say. And this is a Data Doll specialization. You have to pay 2 for this to come into play unless you banish it. Once per turn action, pay nothing, opt 1. This never goes away. This never goes away, right? This never goes away. Anyway, once per turn action, pay 0, draw a card, then put a card from your hand on top of your deck. This thing never goes away. Did anyone else see this? This card is permanently like out in play. Whatever. Once per turn action, pay 0, banish the top card of your deck. This is crazy. And I don't think you have to choose any of these. I think the moment you banish this and put it into play, you literally get to go opt 1, draw a card, put something on top of the deck. I don't think it says pick one. It just says once per turn action. Maybe because it's all attached to the microprocessor, you can only pick one of these modes. But it doesn't say that. The first time you activate this, each turn you gain 1 action point as well. Like, it's just, this is a crazy card. Like, this is just such a powerful card. And it's funny too because like you look at Data Doll, who has 3 intellect, the only hero in the entire game that has 3 intellect, and you go, that's a hero that needs something. And so they printed this, which is so incredibly powerful. Data Doll was already cool and now is way cooler. Way cooler. Speaking of cool, the art on Miraging Metamorph is fantastic. Also, this attack is crazy because it's an attack that you don't necessarily want to destroy. It's also just a 1 for 7. I feel like this is the Wombo Combo class. This is the class that like just does all of the big brain plays. Prism and Illusionist are just all the big brain plays. A 1 for 7 on base is great. You can destroy it with Phantasm, but if you destroy it as the opponent, when it's destroyed, you create a token that's a copy of an aura that the player that played this controls. So in other words, if you blow this up and your opponent has an aura in play already, then they're getting a duplicate of that aura. So, well, first of all, if you're allowing a Genesis to stick, that's disgusting. Well, I guess technically they could go like Genesis and then somehow this. But if they come across with Miraging Metamorph and you decide to pop it while they have like an Ode to Wrath or a technically a Genesis is absolute worst case scenario. What's the other one? Why am I so blanking? I'm just so hyped about some of these cards. Some of these are so crazy. This one's so crazy. And it's the one. I'm skipping it. Whatever. The fact that this just gets pure value one way or the other is crazy. So your opponent basically has to go, okay, if I'm not going to destroy this by popping it, then I have to full block it, or let it leak damage. Or I could just straight up take 7. And the craziest part of this is this combos incredibly well with the card that we saw, I think it was yesterday, the other Illusionist card that copies anything on the combat chain, because this encourages your opponent, if you have an aura active, this encourages your opponent to allow this to stay on the combat chain. So therefore, the little copy attack that we saw yesterday copies this as a 1 for 7, or as a 0 for 7, I believe, and it copies the effect, so you don't want to destroy that one either. So you can chain these two cards together, and this is why I think today, as day 4, is the Wombo Combo day, because it's like everything that they showed off today, to some degree, has some weird combo involvement, and I love that. I love combos, and so I'm happy. Revel and Runeblood, that's another weird combo card. This video, by the way, every time Dead Summer Art does a video, it's so fantastic. Go watch this spoiler video. I wish I could make spoiler videos as good as he does. By the way, that's a good reminder. My spoiler video goes live tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central. It's already set to premiere. You can go wait in the lobby alongside of me before it goes live. 6 p.m. Central. It's going to be a lot of fun. My video isn't as flashy as his is. But I did enjoy making it, so if you want to come watch and see what I get to spoil tomorrow, I highly recommend it. It's going to be a good one. Revel and Runeblood here is a good one. It costs 0. It blocks for 2, which is a good little downside. It's an action, of course. If you played an attack and a non-attack this turn, create 4 rune chants. At the beginning of your end phase, destroy all rune chants you control and go again. So, in other words, it encourages you to make a big attack, to use your rune chants, and it encourages you by doing so by giving you rune chants. It gives you 4 rune chants. It basically it gives you the same effect, which is just crazy, as a Runeblood barrier. It creates 4 rune chants for you. Same effect. The only downside is you don't get to use those defensively. Now you're having to use them offensively or lose all of your rune chants, and so it encourages more of that mid-range aggro play. This is perfect in aggro Viserai, or like a mid-range Viserai that can like pivot a little bit, like the national championship of Australia winner Hayden Dale's deck. Go watch that video. That's a pretty good one. His deck was a very pivot-oriented deck that could pivot between like OTK and mid-range. I feel like this would fit in the mid-range side of that deck, just because it can just like push that advantage. This card is insane. I could see this definitely being like 3 of in that deck, and maybe you side it in, maybe you side it out. This is like one of the most competitively viable cards we've seen out of the set thus far, and we've seen good cards so far out of the set. I mean, yesterday's like Dreadbore bow, that's incredible. Talisman of Recompense is also very intriguing. Just think about the effect here. It pitches yellow, it costs nothing to play, it's an item. It says go again whenever you pitch a card. If you'd gain exactly 1 resource, instead destroy this and gain 3. Whenever you pitch a card means you could do this on your opponent's turn, you could do this on your turn. So this is a defensive tool, if you can establish this, because it allows you to pitch a red and basically be pitching a blue, floating 2 resources and maybe stopping some arcane damage. This allows you to play offensively by establishing this down and playing a quad red hand effectively. It honestly, the fact that it's not an action or an instant is really good as well, because in a way, now I don't remember if you can respond to this. I don't actually know. I would imagine you could respond to this. I'd have to look that up. But either way, this has play both defensively and offensively as well. It helps you pay for defense reactions if you had a bad hand, for paying for that sort of thing. It helps you pay for large attacks. It helps you pay for multiple attacks so that you don't have to use a card. It can smooth out. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I feel like this would decently smooth out a couple of like weird, awkward hands where you need the card in hand, like for Brute. You need to play a card, you need to pay for the card, and you need to discard a card. This allows you to keep a card in hand, possibly, instead of pitch multiples to pay for something. Kind of a cool one. Oh my god, this card is crazy. I watched this one live, the spoiler live. Braketide. Stop dinging, computer. Always dinging in the background. Braketide is a majestic ninja action attack. Attacks for 2, costs nothing, pitches yellow. It says combo. If Rushing River or Flood of Force was the last attack this combat chain, Braketide here gets +3, so it goes to 5, and then it dominates. And then if it hits, you banish the top card of your deck. Until the end of the turn, you can play it. And I should say, I said that wrong. Until the end of your next turn, you can play it. So basically, this gives you pure value over the course of 2 turns instead of 1. 2 is always better than 1, especially if you banish something and you're like, can't pay for it. Banish something. It would be better if I played this on a turn where I had, you know, this lined up with that other thing so that I could make maximum value out of this. But I banished it, I might as well just throw it down there. Now with Braketide, you don't have to have that sort of, defeatist attitude where like, I banished it, I might as well use it. Now you can actually set it up. So this becomes sort of like a combo finisher with a 5 attack dominate. It also becomes a combo setup card by allowing you, if you banish that card off the on-hit effect, to look at it and go, I will save this for next turn where I can play into it heavier. And that is really cool. That's a really cool card. We got a lot of good ninja stuff over the past couple of days, including Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. Mask of the Pouncing Lynx blocks 2, but breaks after it blocks. Now, you do have to, in order to play this, you have to give up Mask of Momentum, which I think is a cool trade-off because you have all these masks that you can switch between. I think that would be a fun foray into a mysterious set, is give us a bunch of masks. When an attack action card you control hits, you can destroy Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. If you do, search your deck for an attack action card with with 2 or less attack, I should say. Banish it and then shuffle. You can play it this turn. So, in other words, if you're playing Benji, you're always running Mask of the Pouncing Lynx because it just goes and finds you one of those crazy combo pieces that we looked at yesterday, like one of those winds. This card is really, really strong. It goes and gets you your specialization, and the specialization can just straight up draw you cards. So this is like a very dangerous card to play against if your opponent is playing Benji. If you see Benji across the table and they're playing Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, which they probably are, it is a very scary time. You need equipment that can block. If you don't have equipment that can block, you're in for a bad time. This card is really good. Benji, I think, is now really good. I really want, and this is a total aside, I really want all of the crew heroes as like adult heroes, but I don't know if they'll ever break that naming convention because they did, like, for example, like Kasai, Centauri Sellsword, or Benji, Piercing Wind, Kaio, Berserker Runt. All of those heroes have the 2 names convention, which they do for adult heroes, and so I don't know if we'll ever get there. I would love them, though. I also love this card. Aether Wildfire, cost 2. It's a wizard action. It's majestic. Deal 4 arcane damage to target opposing hero. Already, you just full stop there. We have some good stuff, because if there's anything after that that's beneficial, this card's insane. Because you already play like a lot of the deal 4s, deal 5s in like Kano decks, in wizard decks. You already play those cards. So what is the next effect? Well, if Aether Wildfire is played during an opponent's turn, until the end of the turn, action card effects that deal arcane damage instead deal that much arcane damage plus X, where X is the damage dealt by Aether Wildfire. So in other words, if you can string together several arcane damage attacks after this successfully connects, which it most likely will because it's pushing 4, and nobody runs Null Rune 4, right? Nobody does that. So if you can string together like 2 snapbacks after this, let's just say that someone pitches 3 and you Kano'd, or not Kano'd, you crucibled into this, so they take 2. Let's just assume they take 2, right? Snapback after that deals them an additional like 8 damage, 6, 7, 8, 10 damage, because Aether Wildfire here would grant the 2 that it dealt to everything after that. So you go like Aether Wildfire for 2, Crucible for another 1, that's 3, and then you go like, maybe you even Node. You can node, and then you snap back, then node. I'm just going too far into the weeds. Either way, this deals so much extra damage that your opponents have to respect this at any given time, and that is huge for Kano. The ability to combo with this card means that players now have to respect Kano, or really just all wizards, even more, and perhaps start keeping like multiple cards in hand at the end of their turn, just to try and not get Aether Wildfired to death. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was day 4. This was a bonkers day. Underratedly bonkers. This was the womboest of combos today, and I am totally here for it. I am so excited. There's some big names up tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to what Arsenal Pass has to show off. There's a lot of really cool spoiler content creators. That's what I want to say. A lot of good content creators that are coming up tomorrow. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they spoil. And it is technically the final day. My spoiler is also tomorrow, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to spoiling that card along with you. If you enjoyed this video, do the like and the subscribe thing to make the number go to the number. And as always, everybody, thanks for watching.